I might, Neil, if I may share with the group one of the models that came from the research that you did when you were head of Huthwaite around how buyers make complex decisions. And this is every one of your customers that your salespeople are calling on are going to go through a very predictable decision-making process. And if we look at the decision that we want them to make, and that is to purchase solutions from your organization, they're going to go through a very predictable set of phases to get there. First of all, at some stage, they're going to recognize, do we have a need? Is that need serious or severe enough to justify us taking some action to solve it? Or even justify opening the doors to allow a salesperson to come and visit and talk to us? But if your customers decide, yes, we do have a problem, we do have an opportunity, and we want to take action on it, they'll then move to a phase called evaluation of options, where they look into how can we solve that problem? What's the best way of doing it? Do we do it internally? Do we see different vendors? And how do we choose between them? What criteria are we going to apply? If we narrow it down, your customers narrow it down, and maybe they're selecting your organization, they're at a phase called resolution of concerns, where they're asking themselves, what's the risk here if we move ahead and buy from you? What uncertainties are there? Can they really deliver on what they said they can do? If they make that positive decision, they'll move into a phase called implementation, where they're implementing that solution. And that's where very fertile ground for upselling, for creating additional delight from the customers, which we'll talk about a bit later on. But then they enter this phase called changes over time. And changes over time is where your customer base and every organization that's out there doesn't perceive yet that they've got a need. Their needs are satisfied. And it's very tough to be calling as a salesperson, calling on customers that are in changes over time. Now, one of the things that was interesting about that research, Neil, that your team did, was that the customer's definition of value will change depending on what phase of the buying cycle or their decision-making cycle that they're in. And therefore, the selling skills that will create value for that customer also need to change. In fact, the selling skills that are appropriate and will create value for a customer who's in recognition of needs are ineffective and may even be inappropriate for a customer who's in evaluation of options, and vice versa. Yeah. So one of the challenges that we've got from a marketing perspective in terms of the messages is when we analyze marketing messages and we look at your marketing messages from your website, from your marketing materials, what phase of that buying cycle are your marketing materials addressing? And if they are all about who we are, what we do, why you should choose us, what phase are they addressing? Probably a small slice of evaluation of options. So let me ask you, how much of your customer base, at this moment in time, as you'll sit there, all your potential customers are actively looking for what it is that you're selling? And we ask that question, sometimes it's 5%, 10% at the most. What about the 90%? And one of the things that at Huthwaite we're helping marketing departments do is think about, what about those clients or prospects that are in other phases of the buying cycle? I'd like to show you an example of an organization that's in the medical products and pharmaceutical field who thought about how can we change our marketing messages to appeal to buyers who don't know that they've got a need yet, that perhaps we could help them realize that. And this is not the complete ad. We don't want to necessarily show the brand here. That's not what's important. What's most important is what's the message that's coming across. It's a series of questions for those people who don't have a need, to create doubt, to create uncertainty, or create a need in their mind. So this could be one way of moving organizations forward through the buying cycle and appealing to organizations who are at different phases.